So I guess this came out 2 days ago. Once this comes up, it came out originally on the 14th, some of this information. But T, you're here today. We're talking about something you and I have talked about, twice now? Have we talked about the canceled Superman possible project 2 times? I think we talked about, why a Superman game is so hard to make, and the first time that screenshots, slash concept art had come out, supposedly for different versions of this game that got canned by WB.
Yeah, we talked about this one, and then there was the potential sequel to Arkham Knight that we were talking about too. But yeah, that, and then a
lot of scrap stuff.
I know, and then the canceled Suicide Squad too. It's been a lot of canceled stuff.
Yeah, and we could have jumped on this a little earlier. I like to wait and see if more info comes out, and a little bit more did actually about this. So we're going to go off a few sources here that have kind of chronicled this. One is IGN. There's also stuff over on Twitter from multiple users. But originally, back on the 14th, apparently, Tatlinsky, this is a user over on Twitter, was looking through some of the portfolios of different artists. I don't know why. But they were.
They're just doing it.
They were just doing it. I mean, I guess, they're just out here with the hustle.
Like you do.
And they actually were on the personal website of artist Joel Dos Rios Villegas. I'm very, very cultured here with names.
Nice.
And found art that appeared to showcase basically a Superman game that had been canceled. And so this kind of went on to develop a little bit. This user did not say a ton about it, but a lot of gaming sites ran with this story. And then James Sigfield, actually, which was earlier today on the 15th when we're recording this, came out and said that they had heard from multiple sources that Rocksteady pitched a Superman game to WB as a follow-up to Arkham Knight, and WB passed on the project. Judging how similar this feels to the new Gotham section of Arkham Knight, this could be for that.
That's exactly what I thought of when I saw it too.
Also very similar to some of the concept art we saw for the Arkham Legacy original pitch with Damian Wayne.
A lot more lit up, and it's just more of like a neon look to it almost, you know what I mean? Where Arkham Knight had bits and pieces of that, and that's why it kind of reminds you of it, but it's also, that's a really good point, is that it was a lot... It looks similar to the Arkham Knight sequel that we saw.
Well, and this kind of does tie into a lot of information we've gotten over the years of they're making a Superman game, and then it just never happened. Oh, they're making a Superman game. Never happened. It just kept coming up, and it really does stand to reason that there might have been multiple drafts of this game going on. We have... I'm going to show some of the old concept art here, too, that we had gone over before, because there were a few different iterations of what looked like different Superman games. It seems like this was pitched to them more than once.
Well, I remember, too, hearing all of those rumors about the Superman game that Rocksteady was working on it. That they had really wanted to branch out and move away from Batman after Arkham Knight.
Oh, I know how they feel.
Yeah. And they wanted
so eventually you get tired of working on the same thing every single day.
Right.
And God forbid you try to do something different. Except they never just ran with it. They're just like, screw it, whatever. We won't even bother. They just never went with it. They just made their Batman games and kind of walked away.
They did. And that's they there was a lot of rumors of them doing potentially like a Flash game or a Superman game, I think, were the 2 big ones that I remember hearing about. And that Suicide Squad game was kind of like a WB Montreal thing, I think, that we had heard of mostly. But with all of it canceled, it is kind of interesting how this game seemed like almost a sure thing after Arkham Knight came out. And then you just never heard anything about it ever again. Like, it just kind of died. Yeah. So it's kind of cool that this guy was just going through random artist images and found something called Batman games. And then that's what he found. That's like a file, a portfolio of images, and that's how he found it. That's super cool.
Well, and this, by the way, is a really dope screenshot. I was thinking about using this as a desktop background, actually.
So cool.
It's really neat. And it's just sort of what could have been, I guess, too. I mean, we will go over more information with this, too, here, but this is a very beautiful city, and it looks more to match up with Metropolis, than Gotham. I don't think it would have been Superman in Gotham.
Sure.
It would have been Metropolis. Probably, pretty much for sure. And it could have been really neat to see sort of in that world what Metropolis would have looked like, especially if it was like this. Like, this is a lot more sprawling skyscrapers and buildings going on, with Superman sort of just in the middle of it. There's a lot of life you can see down in the city. I mean, there's lights moving on the roads, so I would assume it wouldn't just be the city's abandoned again.
Right.
It seems like it would have been a more lively world if this one picture is a display of that, which who knows.
Which it seems like it's a bigger scale of, like, it just looks like a bigger scale, I guess, which is cool. It had to be for Superman, obviously. And I think that what you said about what might have been, that seems like what it's been for like the last 5 years. Really since Arkham Knight came out. You know, it's been a lot of teasing with different games and different titles that either get canceled or just never get announced or never happen. So
I would say it's been this way since we were in high school, actually. Like, since Arkham City, actually. There was stuff about a Superman game back then, actually, too.
Yeah.
Like, stuff about a Justice League game as well. Mm-hmm. That they were going to go into the past of the Arkham universe and do stuff with the Justice League. And then, because that would make sense. I mean, Bruce does his own stuff even when he's a member of the League, right? You know, like, he branches out, he goes back to Gotham, does his own stuff for large periods of a time, comes back. It still would have worked to retcon that in, but they just never went there. And there was other art actually discovered in this portfolio as well, which I want to show, which was actually some stuff of Harley, which was speculated that really could have been the canceled Suicide Squad game as well, or it could have just been concept art for a possible Harley Quinn DLC for something like Arkham Knight that maybe is either what we ended up getting or something totally different. We don't really know.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting is it kind of looks like it could be directly from Arkham Knight and kind of from that, you know, but that's fine because like you talked about this before we even started filming too. That doesn't mean that it couldn't have been branched out directly from that game and just she's plucked out of the Arkham universe into her own Suicide Squad game. So once again, it's a bummer because I really like the concept art. I like how it looks. I like what she did with her eyes. I like the different faces that are drawn here.
It's weird because DC pushes her so hard in the comics and now in the movies too. Like, she's very bankable, but they kind of really didn't focus on her much in anything. Even her own DLC, Harley Quinn's Revenge, she's not in it that much.
No, she's got a little one too at night where you kind of go around and do a few quick missions with her, you know, and you play as her. But there's just not a whole lot going on with her aside from City. I think is where you get, well, I guess City and Night. It kind of feels like equal amounts that you're getting of Harley Quinn, and it's not a lot. She is kind of on like an upward trajectory, or has been for a long time. So like, why wouldn't you cash in on that? I guess, right, is what's interesting.
Well, and much to the love and hate of certain people, you know, like because she has been pretty categorically pushed too,
big time.
But I always thought that she was. There's characters like Captain Marvel that they push that I find very unlikable when they do it, but I never found Harley that way. I always thought there was a lot of heart behind that character if she's done right. Harley has redeeming qualities. That's why she fits into both the roles of villain and anti-hero.
Yes.
And comic relief and serious stories. I mean, she works in all these different ways. So it's weird to think that we could have gotten a Harley-centered Suicide Squad game as well from some of these same developers, and it just fizzled out. It's just so disappointing. I don't know.
It is. Well, especially when there's a bunch of Easter eggs implying that there are things outside of Gotham too.
Yes.
In the Arkham games. There's like the Lex Luthor voicemail is, I mean, it's right there in Arkham Knight.
In that game, not only do you hear that, but you also hear thugs talking about that freak from Metropolis.
Yeah.
So they're clearly talking about Superman.
So you would think that, and that even fueled the rumors. Easter eggs were a huge part of the Arkham games.
Yeah.
But that fueled the rumors even more of Rocksteady being like, well, we're going to branch out and try Superman now. It's like, oh, okay, well, they're talking about it. They're planting the seeds of expanding this universe, so why wouldn't they?
Well, and these are all very deliberate choices. So if we think about it, you've got those two already, right? Like you've got Harley already established. They set up a Suicide Squad thing at the end of Origins with Amanda Waller and Deathstroke. Then they just drop it, and he comes back 10 years later, I guess in canon, for no reason. Yeah. He's just there, and they never mention it. They have Harley established already that they could have branched her out into that. So they already have two characters at least, plus if they wanted to include Deadshot, he was well established in these games. Yeah. They had built that up. You had all those like the rumors and the pointing towards Easter eggs of Superman pointing towards another game. You had Zatanna mentioned multiple times, like her magic shop and like her act. You had Constantine, like there's Constantine references, like an Easter egg in Night. There's several Easter eggs in Night, actually, that point to a wider universe out here. And they've always talked about, like there's always been these things about DC wants to branch out and make a games universe. And we've talked about how that would just print money, but they just never do it.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating the fans. And I mean, everyone's frustrated by it that's a fan of these. Because the games themselves are amazing, but it's just been 5 years of what feels like kind of, and it's complaining, I feel like, but it's empty promises a little bit, you know? It's just consistently, here's a game that's in the works, or here's a leak of something, and it just never comes to fruition. So it's really frustrating over and over again.
And I think that the people will say, like, oh, entitled gamer, but
right.
It's like, I think
that... that's what I was thinking it was sounding like, you know?
No, but I think at a certain point, like, as a consumer, you're definitely allowed to say, like, hey, man, like, I fund you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I pay your bills when you make something, I buy it. You know, what, are you making anything? Like, because I like what you're making. You know, I mean, the same thing would happen to a much lesser extent if I just said, like, hey guys, new video coming tomorrow, and then I just didn't upload for 2 months. People would be like, where'd you go? Are you dead?
Right.
You okay?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, but the difference is that, like, obviously this is a much larger scale, and they have been catering to millions of fans for years, and they just drop off the face of the planet and have no communication skills. And I try not to be too hard on them, because I get that this is complicated, and you wouldn't want to be announcing all these things if there's the chance that they will get canceled. But we even see this now with, like, just the dropping random symbols over and over again, and then radio silence for months.
Yeah, that's what happens.
What are you doing?
It happens over and over again. It's consistent.
Since probably 2005, you have not had an excuse to have zero community interaction as a company that wants to produce multimedia and get people to buy it. You just don't. That's part of the game now. And if you can't do that, somebody else will come along who can, and they will outsell you. I mean, like, people hate on Activision and EA. And you know what they both have, as crappy as they can be? Community managers. They will actually say things to the community. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they talk. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from this for me, is that this stuff has come up over and over again with no word from WB, no word from Rocksteady, except the occasional, nah, don't worry about it.
Well, I think that's the problem too, is that, well, one of the problems is that there's a rabid fan base that's just been waiting for something, really anything. So whenever there's a drop of concept art that comes out, it's news, and IGN and other websites are picking it up.
And even us, we talk about it.
And we talk about it.
And that's fine.
Yeah, and it's because we love it, and it's awesome content that they're making. But it's weird, and I think that's why it's frustrating for the community, is because it's weird to just put these things out and tease it, but for nothing to happen for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's I guess.
And someone would argue they never put that out. That it was never supposed to get out.
Right. It was more so like found.
But why wasn't it kept private then? You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't this just shown to WB? Why did it end up in someone's portfolio? Why? You know, I don't know.
And why is it called Batman Games? The portfolio is called Batman Games.
Right.
You know? So it's like...
And I'm not even hating on the artist. I mean, you drew this. You deserve the credit for it, and you deserve to be able to show it off.
It's a great image, yeah.
But then they shouldn't be accepting pitches if they're going to say no to every single one.
Yeah.
They should just be, pitches are closed. I don't give a crap. We'll do whatever we want. Because that's what it's been forever.
That's really all you would need, I feel like. Just to communicate with your audience, hey, something's coming. Be excited.
Yeah, hey, we are working on something, you know, we are listening to you, we get it. We're frustrated too because we want to make the best possible thing. That takes time, and it should have been done by now. To say something like that, to say like, hey, we've had issues, we get it. Because that's what like Square Enix did with Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's what they did with Kingdom Hearts 3. They straight up said, yeah, look, these took forever, and they shouldn't have taken forever, but they did. We hope you love them as much as we do now that they're out. That's what they did. They didn't say, like, F off. They didn't say, oh, sorry, we're not going to say anything ever. They said, yeah, it took too long. We get that, but it took how long it did. Here it is. We know you'll like it, so sorry.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, and that's enough. Like, you don't have to be perfect, and things don't have to come out in a certain amount of time. They just don't have to. If you had none of this in the last 5 years, and it just took 5 years to make the game, fine. Fair enough. I'm fine with it. But the fact that it's taken this long, and we've had all of these developmental hurdles, and just leak after leak after leak, and disappointment after disappointment, I think is what just really shoots the company in the foot, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes, like I said, the rabid fan base that is just craving any of this more and more frustrated. And it's not that you're not going to buy the game, because like you're still excited, and when a trailer drops, it's going to be the coolest thing.
Oh, and people always say that, like, oh, if you're going to buy the game, then don't complain. It's the dumbest. Like, dude, shut the hell up. It's the dumbest take I've ever heard. Like, you can never say anything is like not perfect.
Right.
Like, God forbid you say something's not perfect. Because how horrible.
Right.
I'm sure the multi-billion-dollar company will survive the small amount of criticism from a couple nobodies on the internet.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well,
what do you care, dude? Stop simping for the company.
I know.
Like, it's okay to love them and also not love every tiny little iota that they put out into the world. That's fine. I don't love everything you do.
What, dude?
What?
Hold on.
I just don't get that attitude.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments down below about this. Would you like to see a Superman game? Would you have liked to see this Harley Quinn Suicide Squad game? Are you actually more in the boat of wanting them to just reboot the Arkham universe now because it's been handled this way for so long? And what do you think about the wait on these games? Let us know. Be sure to check out Twitter and Instagram. They're both in the description below. I try to do giveaways over there like once a month-ish. It just depends because I'm poor right now because the economy sucks. We have Discord, Patreon, everything in between. Hey, we love you guys and appreciate you, and have a fantastic day.